And so the work continues on a 72 Ford pickup 396. I have a problem now, guys, that I did tell a couple of people and I didn't tell a couple other people, so you'll find out in the video. This problem here is right at the front of the distributor, past the vacuum advance. See this gasket material right there? Well, on the rear it is all pushed out, and therefore I now have an oil leak coming from the back there now. The only way to fix this on these Ford pickups is to take apart pretty much the whole top end, besides the heads is the only thing you don't take off. But you got to take the valve covers, the rocker arms, the push tubes, and that's pretty much it off there, plus the carb and all this good stuff. Distributor is one of the main things that has to come out. So kind of do a step-by-step video for you here. What I first did, what you first should do if you're going to work on an intake project like this, drain your antifreeze and try and save it if you can, especially this one that hasn't been in the truck for too long, so it's not too dirty or too fouled up because of the radiator. And I also cleaned the radiator out last time when I had it out. Next, what I'm doing in the meantime while the radiator's draining, because I don't want to pull any of these upper tubes off here, as you can see, I'm going to set the motor on top dead center, and TDC is the abbreviation that most common and people kind of know about and kind of don't. Top dead center is, for one, putting number 1 cylinder, which on Fords is this bank. This is number 1 right here, where I have my spark plug disconnected, and take out the spark plug from number 1 cylinder. Then with someone rotating, or if you can, which should be pretty easy for me because I'll have a breaker bar, and I'll stick my finger in here. It's not too hot yet. I'll stick my finger in here and I'll feel when the motor comes up for compression stroke, and feel when the cylinder hits basically TDC, or when I can feel the tip of the finger with me. Okay? Well, to get it on true TDC, on your harmonic balancer, you have degree marks, and I have matched a couple, marked a couple to show you for my timing, but there's a 0 on your TDC, or your 0 degrees on your harmonic balancer, and you'll set it at that when you hit top dead center. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, and then we'll make step 2 where you go from there after this. Okay? Okay, guys, we got engine on number 1 TDC now. Kind of had an argument with myself on if it was on TDC or not, but it is for sure, because I don't think you'll see it on the camera, but through the spark plug hole and with this screwdriver tip, I stopped it before we hit TDC, and you can feel it. So as you can see here, the screwdriver barely goes in, so it's at top dead center right now, and our harmonic balancer would be at 0 right now is what I have it on, so it's on true TDC. So we're about ready to fire, so to say, number 1 piston, and we'll go from there. Step is to get this top stuff off. So let's take the air cleaner off first and go from there. And as like I said, we have a recirculation that we have to watch out for, so we have to get it off from down there first, and we can pull the whole thing off and go from there. So I'm going to change this up yet again, guys. We'll get air cleaner first, carburetor, and then we can start working our way down from the top. So go from there. Okay, air cleaner's off now. Now we can get the this fuel line off, which is right here. It's got a small hose clamp on it with a small nut / screw on there. So just use this 1/4 inch ratchet wrench, and you might get a little fuel out of these, but not as much as like a fuel injected vehicle will have. So you might get like a little stream, not too much like a spray, so to say. But always remember, when you're doing this type of work, wear your safety glasses, because you don't want that gas in your eye. It does burn, guarantee that. Okay, so once we get the fuel line off, we can get all our connections, our PCV, our distributor vacuum advance, and then our tranny kick down, all disconnected from the carb. And then our electrics, and we'll be ready to get this linkage system apart and pull the carburetor right off with the 4 screws. So. Okay, I went a little farther before I stopped the video and got the carburetor taken off. After the carburetor, you want to get all your stuff disconnected, and then you're ready to pull the distributor, as I did next, and the coil, of course, and then you're done there for pretty much the top points. Next step would be your valve covers. Then you take the valve covers off. And be careful with it too, because if you're careful enough, you can reuse the valve cover gaskets if you didn't get too much gasket on the head. And mine looks alright, so I think I'm going to go ahead and reuse my valve cover gaskets again, because they didn't stick too much to the head and to the intake manifold, because Ford used part of the intake manifold as their head. That's why their heads are so much smaller than a small block Chevy or a big block Chevy, because they use part of it as their intake manifold. But if it were a head, you could tell that it looked pretty big. So anyway, that's what makes it kind of a pain too to do intake gaskets on these Fords, is because since it's part of the intake, the head's part of the intake, you have to get the valve covers off, as well as your push tubes and your rocker arms. So that's what kind of makes it a pain about having to do a Ford intake job. Plus their intakes are so big. This one's lucky, like I said before, we're only 40 pounds on this one, but the old cast iron ones are 80 pounds to deal with, so I wouldn't be doing this project alone like I am right now. So, next step would be, I got it down this far torn apart. Make sure you keep everything organized too, by the way. Like your push tubes and stuff, I got them all in a cardboard piece, so I know where they've worn. As well as the rocker arms. I know that this one goes on the driver's side and that one goes on the passenger side, as well as the valve covers. The next step would, like I said, is to get the intake manifold off. Now, before you do the intake, there's this heater bypass hose right here. 2 hose clamp connections with flathead or a socket, your choice. The socket works much better, it's faster. So you'll disconnect that and pull that apart, get that off there. Then you'll be ready to remove all of these, about 5, I count? Yeah, 5 intake bolts on there. I've already got one removed on this side, so it'll be 9 intake bolts is the rest I have to do, and we'll be ready to pull the intake off, being careful that we do so not to drop anything in the valley pan, and then we'll go from there. The side note as well is when you're taking all your bolts and stuff off, I like to, my method that I use, and it's worked pretty well, is to label and bag everything. I've just bagged everything right now because I kind of know from tearing it apart before which bolts go where. Like I could tell you right here, that's a coil bolt, and I haven't even labeled that. It says main bearings on there, but it's not a main bearing bolt. Those are my valve covers because they're so small. And then just a couple other bolts to the run of the mill. Like I said, keep all of them organized though so you don't lose them, and then go from there. So next we're going to get the intake off. So this is going to be fun, the fun part. Trying to break the old silicone and the old gasket apart from the intake is the worst, but other than that it's pretty easy fix. Tedious and time consuming, but easy. Okay, back to it again. Got the intake off. Kind of started cleaning it up a little bit. Had to dry it off. It got some coolant and oil and all that good stuff on the bottom of it, so I have to clean all that stuff off, make sure it's nice and dry, blow out any of the holes and get all the crap out of them. And then I have to start sanding, or as a quote, emery cloth cleaning. Make sure the surface is nice and clean. Like, see these spots right here, you don't want that, because that will affect your new sealing surface that you got with your new metal block intake gaskets. And then I have to get all the silicone off the fronts here. Make sure that is nice and clean, as well as, most importantly, the back. The back needs to get all the silicone off there and make sure it's spotless, almost like a doctor's office, pretty much what I found. But as you can see here, the upside down portion of the manifold. Start cleaning it off a little bit with the scraper. Then I'll move down to some emery cloth and I'll start shining it up real nice, get it nice and going good. So trick is key here, not to rush from here. You got it at a good point to where you've got it taken apart, but you don't want to rush when you're cleaning it. You want a nice clean surface for everything to mount to. So I can go run some errands in Napa, and then I'll be back to doing the tedious portion of cleaning it. But we'll go from there. So thanks for watching for now, guys. Look for the repair video pretty quick coming up.